Hello and welcome to Season 2, Episode 4 of Les Oderants. I am, as always, Dan, and I'm joined by the three greatest fragrance minds on the planet. Ben, Fliss and James, say hello.
Hello.
Hello! Excellent. Right, glad everyone is here. Let's get this show on the road. Right, where should we start this week? I would like to start perhaps by maybe not quite apologising, because one never apologises and one never explains. But last week I did say some extremely unpleasant stuff about a couple of our listeners who'd been in touch, and I'd just like to clarify that I stand by everything I said and I take nothing back. And Fliss is covering her face in absolute, tears.
Oh.
I had several comments about how fun that was. Yeah, sadly, no one has left us any shitty reviews this week, so you are all safe from the eye of Sauron. Let's just get into perfumes, shall we? Let's go, Fliss.
I went first last time.
No, you didn't.
I did.
No, I don't think you did. I think Ben went first last time. And in fact, I think I probably went first last time. So what I always like to try and do is keep James for sort of...
Last-ish.
There's no point this week.
Oh, really?
Why?
You're
going to be fucking disappointed because it's only 7.
Oh, I sense.
I only want 6.
This is.
Whoa! Hang on a minute. This is news.
Yeah.
This is
heavily
news,
depleted.
James.
Fucking full 14.
Do you know what?
Yeah, I can almost bet that game. It's the first time probably ever.
Wow. I was going to say Liverpool have scored more goals than I've won perfectly this week.
Don't. Yeah. Right. Okay. So I tell you what. Let's break with tradition. Fliss.
Yeah.
I'm going to put you on the back burner, and I'm going to ask James to go first with a due sense of trepidation. James, take us through your not so full 14.
Well, okay. So Monday I wore Amouage Epic Woman 56 because we were talking about it. And again, what am I going to say about that? We just did a whole fucking episode on those. So
it's true.
Other than that,
it's true.
Love it. Pink
still
pepper,
love it. Nothing's changed.
Still love it. Yeah, it's excellent. I mean, it does some of the maybe some of the criticism about it just being a kind of an oud rose or whatever, and it kind of drying down to that. But I think all the kind of amazing stuff in the start and the fact that it's a lot classier than loads of the shitty kind of oud roses. It's just an excellent perfume, let's face it, and has all that excitement in the start, which a lot of them don't. And I just love it.
Just
great.
on that one.
Yeah.
I was pretty clear that I didn't really love it. But for some reason, it's been sort of gnawing away at me, like a guilty conscience. I don't know. It's just been sort of like at the back of my head, like going, maybe you should buy this. Maybe you should buy this.
One day you're just going to come out like, I'm coming out with like a tuberose fucking pink pepper fragrance on, just like. Yeah,
I want the world to know. Yeah, absolutely. It's all happening. No, I don't know what it is about it. I didn't even like it that much, and yet there's something just kind of like needling away at me about it.
It's not about the epic, but I have that feeling about Melt My Heart, and ever since not being particularly nice about it, the muscle memory of it in my head is you should get it. And so yeah, I've just do it. Yeah, so I've just bought 15 mil. But yes.
This is brilliant. What we should do is we should all get together. We should say something's shit, and then about 3 weeks later go and buy it because it wasn't that shit, was it?
Oh, it's snagging. But I know that feeling of thinking something that's really good, understanding that it's beautifully made, structurally brilliant, but there's still something that doesn't quite meld with you. But at the same time, that scratch at the back of your head, that limbic area of your brain going, it was good, you do need it in your collection.
Yeah, exactly. What you've just said there, in your collection. So I don't want to foreshadow too much, because obviously we're talking about that later, but that's a very crucial thing to it. You need things in your collection that take you out of your comfort zone. And I won't say any more on that, but that's, that's an important part of your collection, I think.
Yeah.
Interesting. That is genuinely interesting. We're definitely going to come back on that in part 2.
Cool.
Okay. What's your second one, James?
Next one is Les du Désert Marocain by Andy Tower. I rarely wear this, but whenever I do, I'm just like, he started a whole thing as a self-trained perfumer. He started that kind of accord, whatever you want to call it, and in actual fact, not many not many things have really copied it as such, because it's so distinctive. There are a couple of fragrances that I'm just like, and even recent ones that I've been and they're from trained proper perfumers, whatever you want to say, and I'm kind of like, this is just a bit of a shit version of that. And he obviously hit on that, and some people say it was he kind of peaked early or whatever with his I've heard someone say that somewhere. But I think he's still, he's just an excellent perfumer. Did you see him dancing? I think that was last week, wasn't it?
On Instagram.
On Instagram, he was having a little dance. And, me being me little self, I was like, surely you should be wearing Vetiver Dance. And he was like, no, that's discontinued. So I was like, all right, okay. All right, fucking hell, Andy. Chill out, mate.
Where's your sense of humour, Andy?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I no longer own that perfume, Les du Desert. I feel like I probably should. I may have to go on the hunt again.
It won't be a very long hunt, because it seems to be sold and passed along on every group every day of the last 10 years.
It's like there's always a radio station somewhere playing a Justin Bieber song. Well, there's always someone punting a bottle of LDDM on Facebook. It's just a couple of the facts of life. Cool. Do you have?
What do we think about Lone Star Memories? Do you know that one?
I love that.
Yeah, I like that one
much. Just
it's great, isn't it?
I don't know, so I can't contribute, but I feel like, isn't this the one where you previously said something about it, kind of
I think I said
motorbikey?
that Amber Absolute smells like a man who drives fast cars, and Lone Star Memories smells like a man who rides fast horses, and I prefer the latter.
Very good.
Yeah, what do you think of it, James?
I love it. I don't own it, but it's one of those that I put on some kind of wish list years ago, and then have never. I think I've revisited samples a couple of times and gone, yeah, I should still get that, and then it's kind of gone to the back of the queue.
It's on my wish list as well. So what we should do is we should buy a partial together and split it, or something like that, or buy a whole one and split it. Because I'm never going to smell it. I'm never going to use a whole bottle, but I'd happily split it with you.
That's
you can have the bottle even.
Really?
Yeah.
I'd want the bottle.
Yeah, of course you can.
Yeah,
I kind of don't I'm not as kind of sociable with my sort of purchase. That's lovely, Fliss, and I may do that, because I should really do that. It's more sensible, but I'm kind of I don't all this
James's sloppy seconds.
all that shit. Yeah, I'm kind of a bit, and it's stupid. I know.
We're foreshadowing again, but I genuinely don't mind taking decants.
I revel with sloppy
seconds. It really doesn't bother me. As long as I have the juice, I don't care.
Hang on. Yeah, let's do part 2 in part 2.
Yeah, true. That's another aspect to the collecting, isn't it? Anyway, yes, okay, Fliss. I think just to own that perfume should do it.
What's number 3 on your list, James?
Mathieu Gantier, fucking whatever. that one.
Gloves.
Matier Perfume.
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever.
Perfume and gloves.
Perfume and gloves, dudes.
Perfume and gloves, that's it. And it's called Santal Nobile. And it's a sort of very unassuming perfume that you go, oh, all right, okay, this is not, it's a bit old-fashioned, it's a bit of a kind of boring sandalwood sort of thing to begin with. And then all of a sudden, it transforms, it's got hidden depths. It's exactly like their kind of perfumes, that some of them seem a bit stuffy and a bit French and a bit old hat and a bit like, oh, you know, cool or whatever. And then all of a sudden, you actually wear them and go, these are actually a lot better. You could dismiss them early and think that they were just complete shite, but they do have like total like hidden depths. But also they're a bit kind of like a bit sort of knockabout, not cheap and cheerful, because they're an expensive sort of niche brand, and they have like good heritage and stuff. But there's just something like, I don't know, sort of knockabouty about them that I like. A bit like L'Artisan or, you know, that sort of like thing. They're kind of like, they're for the real heads. Do you know what I mean? They're like
The real heads.
The real heads, yeah. So, yeah, basically, and then it kind of, you get this sort of dry, like almost like potpourri, but like really like decayed rose petals after a while. And I'm like, where's that come from? Do you know what I mean? And then it's this kind of, yeah, sort of creamy sandalwood business. Really good perfume. That guy, I mean, that Laporte, I think he was called, just a really visionary kind of person. And they've got loads in that collection, and they're all really good. So good for them. Then I wore Fliss German Street, which, is a kind of, again, difficult to sort of describe. Has a fun, again, that sort of like knockabout sort of thing about it. I know they're a crested brand that like the Queen apparently wears and shit like that. Whether that's true or not, I don't know.
Queen's brown bread now, isn't she? So she ain't wearing nothing.
No, that's true. But you know what I mean. They've got that sort of like royal kind of bullshit. And like German Street is where they like, it's like where they sell shirts and it's a bit like Bond Street, but like
shirt manufacturers.
Yeah, more for like fellas, in it.
It is very much so.
There's a lot of bespoke tailors down German Street.
Yeah, I would have thought, based on the name and the brand and the fragrance name, that would be a pretty polite, dapper men's cologne.
I was going to say something a very nice fougere.
Not really fougere, yeah, more of a cologne type perfume, but yeah, just really good, like nicely sort of faceted, but also has this kind of, like I say, a sort of, I unfortunately associate like dihydromercenol and like things like that with like a bit cheap and cheerful, but it's classy enough. There's other elements to it that sort of push it through. It's not like necessarily what you might think, but like Fliss are just a really good brand, aren't they? Like they do really good stuff.
I was going to ask actually what you thought of Fliss, because to me they're like, there's something that you can buy in Boots, but they're not behind the perfume counter. They're often, I don't know if they're still sold in Boots, but they used to be like,
no, I don't think they are sold
like
in Boots,
round the corner from the toothpaste kind of thing,
right?
You know, I don't know, but at the same time, apparently they're having a resurgence. I've noticed on some of the groups that some people are asking more about Fliss or wearing Fliss more. German Street someone was talking about the other day.
Right.
So I don't really. I've always dismissed them, and I can remember like buying their lavender like years ago and going, it's all right, but nothing amazing.
But they always felt to me a little bit like sort of countryside gift shop. Like, I don't know if you can even buy them in countryside gift shops, but that's just the vibe I get from them. You know?
Along with like a barber key ring or something.
Yeah. And a nice tweedy rug.
I've tried a couple of them, and my sort of abiding memory was that they were a bit unremarkable. One of them was a bit like Black Afghano, which I particularly disliked.
Oh wow! That's a modern one of theirs. That's not what they usually kind of do.
One of them has. It was like a number, like I don't know, maybe it's like 67, 68 or something like that.
Yeah.
Maybe it was that one, actually. Oh, fuck, I can't even remember. None of them, other than the one smelling a bit like Black Afghano, stuck in my head enough to make me think, yeah, I need to find out more about these perfumes.
There was some vibe to it of like early 2000s, musky, fresh, again, sandalwood sort of perfume. So it has that kind of base to it. It's a bit like Gucci Envy, at moments of Gucci Envy, and another perfume that actually is a florist that smells like Gucci Envy, which I do own, which is called
the green one.
Me.
The green one with the
the green
black,
one.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit like that, but only sort of in the dry down, because the top is like fresh and sort of like, say, lavender, bergamot sort of pleasantries, and then it goes, oh right, okay, it's this sort of like vibe. Good perfume, do you know what I mean? No, I thought it was decent. The next day I wore Frank Los Angeles.
Frank Los Angeles. I've never heard of this.
Frank Los Angeles. So I was kind of digging in like old samples with this like German Street and, the glove one and this and stuff. So trying to sort of, generate a bit of interest in my full 14, which is only 6. Basically, Frank LA is a bit of a mystery, actually, because if you go on Fragrantica, which I did, and look at it, you kind of go, which fucking one is it, right? Because there's 3. They were all released. The third one was apparently released first. They're just called 1, 2, and 3. Right. And I'm like, these were not the ones that I tried. I'm sure it was a different one. So I thought, obviously, it's probably going to be number 1. It's not number 1, because either they've redone them, I don't know. But when I was wearing it, writing the review, thinking about it, I was like, okay, this smells like 4711. It's a kind of, petitgrain, citrus, and white floral, neroli, cologne, eau de cologne type fragrance. Boring. You go, oh, okay, this is supposed to be Frank Los Angeles. I'm assuming it's some trendy brand. I don't know what they're about. Do they do clothes? I've no idea. But anyway...
How is the perfume?
That's exactly what I just said. So it's kind of like this sort of eau de cologne type
This
thing.
is the Frank one.
Yeah, sorry, the Frank one. But then after that, I kind of was ready to write, this is like 4711, but shit and doesn't last as long, etc., etc. But then I was like, no way, actually. Okay, so it has this kind of first thing of... like this sort of neroli cologne citrus thing, and then all of a sudden I'm like, this smells like it's like a Bertrand-Dachaufour type fragrance. It smells a bit like Vagabond Prince, and again it kind of surprised me, because I was like, wasn't this just going to be a really light EDC that just fucking disappears? No, it isn't. It's going to be this weird, like say, it's got that sort of cassis, like, but very like modern, and then there's kind of like aroma chemical-y stuff underneath, and it was quite relentless after a while. And I was like, wow. And then it'd all flip back and you'd get a bit of the neroli and the thing again. I was like, wow, this is actually quite clever.
Sounds all right.
So by the end of it, I was kind of like, bit like Enchanted Forest by Vagabond Prince, which I've said like a few times recently. There's been a couple of fragrances, that Odin one and a couple of others that I'm like, Anyway, interestingly enough, looking at all 3 of the Franks that are on Fragrantica, they're all made by Bertrand-Dachaufour. So I was like, oh, that makes sense.
The douche.
But yeah, exactly. But none of them actually resemble the one that I'm on about. And the fact that none of them even mention neroli or any of that stuff, I'm like, that can't be those perfumes. So there must be, maybe they had another Frank LA that like was, because these samples are old as shit. Is
it possible the really sample old. Is mislabeled?
Nah.
I mean, I've got millions of samples, but most of them are don't know what the fuck they are. like they've got the writings warped or whatever.
Well, put it this way. I used to always buy, and this is crazy, but I used to always do it. I used to always buy samples in duplicate. So I always had one that I probably originally wore at the time when it came out, and then I just had loads that I kept in an archive, just dumped away to wear another time. And this is one of those. And I do actually remember it the first time, and this was kind of what it was like. I do remember the sort of, as soon as I put it on, I was like, oh yeah, I remember this is a kind of boring cologne thing. I didn't remember the rest of the stuff. And the fact that it smells really signature, like a Bertrand d'Achefort, I'm like, it's got to be right. I know what you mean. Yes, it could be a mislabeled sample, but I don't think this one was particularly. But yeah, it's weird. Maybe some of those ones that are on, maybe it is one of those ones that's on Fragrantica, but I don't know. That was my interpretation of it anyway.
Cool.
So, yeah, pretty interesting from being like, no, this is boring, to actually, this is quite interesting. I still don't want it, and, you know.
Didn't like it that much, you know.
No. Then yesterday, what was I saying about, you know, when you're doing kind of like physical sort of stuff and you don't, I just sometimes, like, more that I forget.
You had a non-perfume day, didn't you?
Yeah, I did. And I'm not even going to dress it up as like, oh, it's a, you know, tolerance break or anything like that. I'm just going to be like, no, I forgot. And I was so busy that I just didn't even fucking... Now, I've been redecorating Elliot's room, like do this like mural on the fucking wall with like wallpaper. I fucking hate wallpapering. It's so like, you know, you get all that spooge, all that fucking jizz stuff, and it gets everywhere. Well, it's spooge. Well, me and my mate came round and helped me. Shout out to Wes for like helping me.
That sounds like a lot more fun than the last time I did wallpaper. To be honest.
Well, the whole joke was all day we were listening to.
I was putting up some wallpaper, and the next thing I know, there's jizz everywhere.
We were listening to this 1930s sort of music, and we were going, it's old-fashioned spooge time. And the spooge was a big joke all day, and you know, we were getting covered in spooge, and you know,
lovely.
You know, it's like two you know, immature men, you know, in a room together.
Men.
So anyway,
very loose. Yeah, definition. Yeah, okay. Good.
So anyway, then I wore today. I'm wearing Van Cleef & Arpels Midnight in Paris. This pretty little bottle here.
Pretty.
Nice. There's an EDP and an EDT, isn't there, of that one?
Oh,
I think.
I'll tell you what this one is.
I don't really know the difference.
Of it, so this is the EDT.
And is my recollection right that that's somewhere in a similar sort of space to like the Dior Homme type stuff?
Kind of, a little bit maybe. It's more of a very light tonka, musky tonka, sort of creamy, powdery kind of thing with a slight little like rubberiness of patchouli maybe, or something like that. But it's lovely.
There's something about it that always makes me remind me slightly of Armani Code. I don't know what, there was a note in there somewhere.
Okay.
I think it's the slightly rubbery powderiness of it, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Armani Code's got a lovely like powdery base. I quite like Armani Code. I think it's a good perfume. It's got less sort of freshness than that. It's a bit more I'm a bit more opulent. I'm a bit more kind of vanillic in the loose terms, because it's not very vanilla-y. It's more tonka, but tonka has that quality as well. It's just a lovely perfume, and I felt it's quite comforting, sort of musky, and I felt, you know, I need a bit of that today. So I wore that. So
cool.
Bit of a short 14.
Very short.
Well,
there was only 6.
Yeah. So not a 14 at all.
Not a 14 at all. So. Well, I'll tell you what, I am interested, Ben, as to whether you can actually beat 6, because this will, you know, if you can beat 6, that will be a world first, a Les Oderants exclusive.
I mean, I could, but it's not stuff that I'd want to talk about. So I've got 4 that I wore that I thought was interesting enough to chat about, and the others are just stuff that I wear.
Well, you can name check the others.
Well, I mean, I wear all sorts of shit then, don't I? Like, so the big one that I wore this time that I probably wasn't going to talk about, because I think I've spoken about it before, was the Cinque Canto Mandragola, which I believe I sent some to you, Dan, a long time ago. And it's a lovely rosy, but very like spicy and weird. And I sort of wore that because, and it does knock on to the other two of the fragrances that I bought had wormwood in them and with this kind of like absinthe kind of vibe. So I wore that because I thought that would like get me in the mood for it whilst I was waiting for the mail to come. Because that one has a lot of like dark green herbal elements and a lot of like weird sort of absinthe wormwoody kind of vibes to it. And it's based on like a poisoner. And it is this like Victorian dark green liquid in my mind anyway. And that's kind of the vibe that these other ones that were coming. So yeah, I wore that. So that was one.
Is that actually what the brand say it's based on, or?
No, it's based on a Italian poisoner from like the mid.
There's a
period.
range of like so Cinque Canto is or V Canto. Cinque Canto is a Terenzi brand. You see them in the little velvety bottles.
Oh yeah.
And there's a lot of them. I mean, as with all Terenzi brands, just the sheer fucking volume is staggering. But there are, I think, like a trio in a deep red, of which Mandragola was one of them, and they're all based on poisons or poisoners or something. But I mean, you know, to be honest, there's that many Terenzi brands. Some of them are based on poisoners. Some of them are probably based on, like, you know, the Argentinian like women's football team. There's just that many. There's probably not a great example, but there's.
I don't think it makes. I don't think it quite matches up to the kind of cool sort of not romantic, but I feel like they put a lot of effort into the concept, but the perfume just doesn't really smell quite what you'd expect. But it's a fucking good perfume.
There's 35. So they started in 2015, and they've released 35 fragrances since 2015, which is a lot.
Do you feel like they're a bit empty though? Like they're kind of spooging out concepts like a mad rate.
Well,
do you not think?
I mean, if I was being cynical, and it's not really like me to be cynical, but if I were, I would say that they've got one side of the house is busy writing briefs, and another side of the house is busy just knocking up things that smell okay, and someone somewhere is going, yeah, probably stick that with that one and this with that one. I don't believe for a minute that they started out Mandragola with the brief of, you know, this historical 18th century Italian poisoner, and let's do a perfume based around that. They just went, oh, what would be a cool fucking thing? That's a cool thing. And, this perfume smells all right. Let's whack those two together.
Did you like read up on because obviously, is it worth doing a dark histories about this perfumer? Or did you read up on this sorry, not perfumer, this poisoner even?
Yeah, so I did. I've read up a little bit about, because that she's basically part of that whole sort of I suppose in a way it was sort of feminist kind of thing of killing your husbands when they were cunts, basically.
Okay.
And it was quite common in that period of like in like Spain and Italy. There were like sort of quite a few like. They called them like female poisons, but really they were like merchants, basically like selling on poisons to housewives who were sort of felt downtrodden.
It's because you couldn't get divorced in that,
who maybe
in that
wanted
time. And if you were beaten,
but there was a whole host of
lots
reasons.
of reasons to want to get out, and the only way to get out was to.
Yeah, so she falls into this Mandragola. She falls into that kind of trap of one of those lot. But it's a good perfume. I'll tell you what, it's a fucking good perfume. And as much as I don't know about Terenzi, I don't know about Cinque Canto, whatever, but I've smelled two of them, Mirabile being the other one, and Mandragola, and I just thought they're both fucking really good.
Mirabile is one of my favourite vanillas, and it's got this like really weird milk and bourbon sort of accord, and the way I describe it is smelling a lot like a bourbon milkshake. bourbon. Is it bourbon or bourbon? How do you?
Bourbon. I said
I don't know.
Bourbon.
Bourbon. You do say bourbon. Yeah, bourbon's the biscuit.
Isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Excellent. Right, well, yeah, so anyone tuning in to find out the clarification between whether it's a whiskey or a biscuit, you're in right place, lads. Yeah, it's got this bourbon milkshake vibe to it. It's really, really good. But I don't know. I find a lot of the Terenzi stuff. It's hit or miss kind of thing. It's certainly not a brand where it's all killer, no filler. There's a few bits of killer, so that's cool, good enough. But they generate a lot of perfumes, that's for sure. And I just checked, there are 5 in that red collection. It's called. Anywho.
So yeah, to fill up my 7, the other 2 that I bought, right? So before I reached the actual meat of what I wore this week, the other 2 that I bought this week were from Chris from the group, and they were Ganache Perfume affairs.
Oh yes.
I got Mama Joe, which will again maybe a bit of foreshadowing. I bought simply to complete a collection, and it's hideous. As you might imagine, it's like over syrupy, sugary coffee thing. I quite like it. I as a like room spray, it works, but as a perfume, it's something else.
You're the only person I know who says it's hideous and then follows it up quickly with "I quite like it."
Oh, you wait. Because this week I tried something special. So those 2 ganaches, I bought that one, which was Mama Joe, and Lush Life. I got them super cheap. Was like, yeah, why not? They're both, as you'd imagine, anything from Ganache, which is like hyper sweet, super over the top, almost unwearable, but in a good way. In a way, it's like they're almost unwearable, but because they're just so sweet. But they are good fun as well. They put a smile on your face. I quite like wearing them like when I go to bed or things like that, and it's just like, I smell like an ice cream in bed. I'm going to go to sleep now. So it's the stuff like that. It's great fun.
Look how happy he is with himself. I smell like.
He really does look. He's grinning from ear to ear.
You know when you're speaking and your brain is saying like, no, stop now, and your mouth's going, nah. I'm just going to keep going. So yeah, those 3 are ones that I wasn't expecting to talk about. But so the 4 that are going to make up my 7, though.
Wow.
Tell you what, actually 2 I think everyone would really like. Were a brand that I never heard of called Les Coquettes de Paris.
Le Coquette.
Which is like the courtesans of Paris. And they've got 3 perfumes, and all 3 of them are based on courtesans from the La Belle Époque era in France. And they are basically they are on point for that sort of brief. They smell very much. There's a lot of patchouli in both of them. I only smelt 2 of the 3, but there's a lot of patchouli, and they smell very much like, you get those sort of like legacy perfumes. Sort of perfumes that, like from brands that are like hundreds of years. They smell like that. They smell definitely dated and classical, but in quite a good way. And they're very interesting as well. So the first one that I'm wearing today actually is called La Castiglione. And that one, if you like sort of amber patchoulis, it's quite then it's worth checking out, because it's interesting in that it's got this weird green muggy bit in the middle that sounds probably not very nice saying it like a muggy bit, but it's the only way I can really describe it, in that it's a very like dense, thick, dark herbal greenery in the middle of it. It's a bit too green for my liking, to be honest, but I think if you're into patchouli, you'd probably find a lot to like in this, because it's not at all shy about being like that sort of wet, dank patchouli vibe. So if you like dark patchoulis, I think La Castiglione would probably be quite worth looking into.
Is it about the is it about the Italian architect Achille Castiglione?
No, it's about
get you.
They're all about
I've got Google.
prostitutes.
Oh, right.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, they're all about like high class courtesans that really existed in La Belle Époque era in France.
Is courtesan like a fancy word for hooker?
Slightly more than that, though, because it was also about entertainment, and a lot of courtesans were very well versed in a lot of art and literature,
juggling,
and They were multi-skilled. It wasn't just simply,
She's juggling with them.
Moving swiftly on, the next one I tried was La Bella Terro, right? And this one, I think, was really nice. Again, very classical smelling.
Is this also another courtesan?
Yeah, so it's another La Coquette de Paris. But this was the one that I was mainly
Where did you get these?
So I got them from Shy Mimosa.
Okay.
And they're bloody good priced perfumes, which is, I would say, the thing that lets them down in a way. They are limited by... they've obviously limited by the price point they were going for, because they're quite reasonable. They're like 90 quid for I think, I can't know if it's 50 or 100 mil, but either way, that's not bad.
No.
And but I do feel like that also limits them, because they don't wow you in any way, but they're just nice and they smell. If you like classical perfume and you like patchouli, I think they're worth a crack. La Bella Terro, really interesting fig and violet.
Ooh.
And the fig is not over the top, and it's not sort of like too milky or disgusting. It's very fresh and in there. And the violet is really nice in that it doesn't go too hyper sweet or powdery. And there's obviously an iris in there as well, but the iris takes a bit of a backseat. And again, it's sort of the amber and the patchouli are very much the core of the perfume, but they just kind of feel almost fancied up a little bit with this sort of just nice sort of fresh watery fig and a sort of quite soft violet, and I think that's quite interesting. And again, they have weird sort of green sort of spicy bit in the middle as well.
Well,
I honestly think actually every one of us, I think I could probably say all three of you guys would probably enjoy these to some extent. Don't know how much, but I think they're worth a shot. I'll pass them along.
Yeah, I think I'd be super interested in that. I've found over the last week or two, even though the weather's about to turn atrocious, I've sort of been thinking about, we're getting a bit closer to spring now. The days are sort of starting to stretch out, and I keep thinking, I really need a load of fig perfumes.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody else in the sort of, normal world probably goes, oh, yeah, the days are starting to stretch out. I'm looking forward to doing this or seeing that or whatever. Me, yeah, I need figs. Get me figs.
I had exactly that thought this morning. I actually put aside a load of figs that Lena Hope sent me, at the back end of last year, and I was like, I'm going to save these for spring. I'm going to test them in spring. And I was literally sitting in my bathroom today, just going, can I test the figs yet? Can I test the figs yet? Surely it must be spring. We're sad, aren't we?
Yeah.
I think with the La Bella Terro, it's not a very forefront fig perfume. I think they balance all of the other elements of the perfume quite well. So the patchouli for me is still the core, but then all the other elements are balanced quite well, because there is some white florals in there, some sandalwood, some sort of weird spices and stuff, but it's all on a level, if you know what I mean. Nothing really stands out as the main sort of thing. So as a fig perfume goes, it is quite backseat, but it's nice, and it's quite, it's an interesting perfume. And again, I what I found I really liked about it most actually was that they gave me vibes of classic perfumery, and they felt, like I say, almost like legacy perfumes, but they're in a cool way. They felt really genuinely museum pieces, which I don't know. There was something about it that just made me feel very museum-y, and I like that about it a lot. And I say, I think for the price, they're worth a shot. So I'll pass them along to you guys. Because I say, I think they're quite easy to like, I think. There's nothing, out there. So, yeah, moving on from those two, I'll tell you one that I hated. B683 by Marc-Antoine Barrois. Barrois of, Ganymede fame, isn't it?
Yeah, they're all...
B683,
they're all biches. So, the 683,
it was a biche, yeah.
Encelade... Ganymede, they're all biches, and they're all basically riffs on the same thing, right?
I didn't think much of B683 at all. I felt it was really boring. It was patchouli, sort of amber, with a lot of spice, but I've smelt similar that's done better, if you know what I mean. A few things it sort of reminded me of was the Bodicea one, the King, that one that was sort of...
That's quite plummy.
A little bit.
The Bodicea, the King, is sort of in the same vein as Plum Japonaise.
Oh, okay. It was more like the amber and the spices that sort of reminded me of this one, and I just thought that the Bodicea was, say, it's got the same similar core, but more interesting with things like the plum and all the rest of it. This one, the B683, I just thought it was
this one.
I'm not going to keep trying that. The B683 I just thought was very boring, and I didn't really feel like it did much, and I didn't really feel like it had much to go on. But having said that, a couple of people did that I know picked it up off my coffee table and smelt it and sprayed it on themselves and said that they really liked it. So what do I know?
I think, and I've tried quite a few of them now. I think B683, Ganymede, Bois Imperial, they're all sort of nice, but they're all quite one-dimensional. I thought, like, none of them really sort of go anywhere. They sort of start and then they continue, and in the case of Bois Imperial, it just goes on for like eternity in a straight line, but they don't really develop or anything. I don't know whether anyone else has had a similar experience.
I think that sums up my feelings for B683, actually, was that I just, like, when I sprayed it, I wasn't wowed, and then I just spent the rest of the day going, wish I could have worn something else.
I'm not wowed.
Yeah, because I'm absolutely not wowed by this.
I feel quite the opposite about them being sort of... What did you say, Dan?
I said one-dimensional.
One-dimensional, yeah. I think they're quite complex, but I can kind of see why you'd think that. They don't have a sort of... I don't think they have like a traditional sort of perfume kind of beats in them. He's definitely exploring this kind of like really spangly... I always say modern. I don't know what I mean by that, but like modern incense kind of vibe to all of these, and they're kind of I like to say that Bois Imperial, which loads of people have said, oh, it's really good that you like recommended that and said that, and I actually tried it again. I was like, I couldn't wear this. It's fucking too much. Like, I don't like it. Didn't hate it, but I was just kind of like, this is very like tinny and sort of like a fucking knit needle in the ear kind of.
Yeah,
like
you described it as high pitched, and I thought that was a really excellent description because it sort of conveys exactly that sort of convergence of noise and scent that you sort of get from it.
I mean, they're all a bit high pitched, and the whole thing is, I think in that sort of family, I think that one in particular, and albeit it's the kind of cheapest, and you could, if you want to buy into that vibe, then that is probably the best route into it. But I think the Barwa ones are a little bit more refined than that, and slightly less annoying, but still pretty annoying. And like, I loved them. Don't get me wrong. I wore both of them. I remember vividly because it was around 2020, and it was sort of like pandemic time and stuff. And I remember wearing both of them, being like, wow, like, these are amazing, but then gets to a certain time of the day, and yes, they don't change much in the way that I mentioned, like the other perfumes that I worn in my thing this week do change quite a lot. So I get the linear description, actually, but I think there's just so much in the kind of opening that it's difficult to describe them that way, but I know what you mean. But anyway, irrespective of that, I don't really remember the B one. I remember the other one. Because Barwa's only done 2 perfumes, right? But he's done different concentrations.
3.
Oh, there's 3. What's the other one?
Encelade.
Oh, yeah, I've not tried that one.
So I think they're all sort of on a spectrum of kind of metallic-y appleness through to kind of slightly less metallic-y appleness, and Encelade's on the sort of low metal, low apple sort of end of the spectrum.
It has a huge rhubarb note, Encelade.
Well, apparently, but maybe it's because I've been feeling like fucking absolute bag of dicks all week, but I didn't.
Doesn't Encelade mean rhubarb?
Probably does. Probably does.
Yeah, I think it does.
Yeah. Well,
sorry, you've been feeling like a bag of dicks. Go on.
I have, and but I don't mean like I quite fancy a bag of dicks. I mean, I actually have like felt like a bag of dicks. I'm digging a big hole now.
I'm partial to a bag of dicks.
Yeah. My general sense of well-being was very poor. I had some fucking awful cold all week. But I did try Encelade again, and it wasn't very rhubarby for me. It's it's a perfectly solid perfume, I thought, but it didn't. It certainly didn't blow my skirt up. So I'm conscious we've been yammering around the Barwars. The B683, was that the last of your 7, or was there more?
I've got one more. Strap yourself in, guys. This one is a treat.
Okay, let's go.
Right. So this was, right, Hora de la Verdad Sombra by Senyoko, right?
What?
Now, I'll introduce it just by reading out the note listing, the official note listing, because I think this will give you an idea of what we're in for.
God.
Right? Top notes of blood, saffron, white pepper and thyme. Middle notes of rose, jasmine and narcissus. And then base notes, wait for it, of hyrax, leather, castoreum, civet, birch tar, oud, cedar, musk, oak moss and labdanum. Fuck me, right?
Wow. That. Sorry, no notes of spooge, though.
No spooge. Interestingly, I found so that's the note listing right now. I found the most challenging part of this perfume, and it was challenging, was the white pepper. I found the white pepper really difficult to live with, and on 2 occasions I had a little rush.
You had one.
Wow.
Yeah, and but it was absolutely fucking magical, right? It was so good.
Pepper and blood.
Magical wretches.
It sounds like you've been wearing a black pudding.
Oh my Christ. It smells just unbelievable. When you spray it, it's hideous, right? It's really shocking. It's so animalic, it's unreal. And I don't know if it's got it in it, and I would doubt it, but it's a very good approximation of castoreum, because natural castoreum is very greasy and fatty, and it has this very, I don't know, like a kind of like a ham at Christmas, like that's been left out all day and gone a bit, and the jelly
grease.
And
I know the grease.
Yeah, it's got that element to it, and this definitely has it in this perfume, which makes me think that it's got natural castoreum, but that's not used that often, so maybe it's just a really good approximation. But either way, it's got the very natural greasy element to it, and it's just foul. And then but at the same time, it's got it's just fucking magic, right? It smells like rawest leather you've ever smelt, with that's just been rubbed in engine oil and coal and tar and smoke, and it's just violent as all shit, right? And then you've got this castoreum, and the civet is in there as well, and it's just really on the nose and forward, but it's just pure fucking raunch in a bottle. There are perfumes, right, that are pretty, and you would say, oh, that's sexy, right?
Yeah.
Like Dior Homme or something like that, right? Fuck that. This is sexy on a level that we've forgotten about. We've evolved past this. This is how we've got fight. You know how we've still got fight or flight in us, right? And this is some fucking weird caveman thing that we've should have got rid of years ago, but we've still got it. What this conjures in you when you smell it is the same as that. It just this fucking raw raunch that's inside you that goes, fuck me, I just do you know what I mean? I'm such a man or something. It's terrifying, but it's fucking amazing, and it's really good. So it's
a bit like Sauvage, then, is what you're saying.
Just on basically, it's like Sauvage in the fact that it should never be worn in public.
Nice, yeah, no, that's fair.
No, I mean, it should literally, it's completely unwearable for the first 2 hours. So the first
2 hours, wow. Yeah.
Well, the first hour, it made me feel sick, and it was really rough. But after about an hour, then I started feeling no, this is really good now. But that's where it was still completely unwearable.
But you've got a very high tolerance for funky perfume. And if you're saying unwearable for 2 hours, I'm going to sort of... I mean, I feel like in the name of kind of investigative research, I should probably try it, but it sounds fucking horrible, mate.
I'm intrigued.
Yeah. It is. Like that's to sum it up. That's it. Like it's fucking horrible, but in the name of just science, it's worth trying. Just because it's
put
just
on a white lab coat and like get my clipboard out. Yes,
it's just majestic. Like from like an artistic perspective, and like from the feelings that it conjures up, is just fantastic.
What's it called again, Ben? Because I need to write this down.
So it's called Hora de la Verdad Sombra by Senyoko. And Shy Mimosa sent me a sample that was very generous, so I'll send it on to you guys because it was £8 for this little sample. So I'll split it up and send it on next time we send stuff, because you'll never need like this much of this perfume. Like, one spray is like enough for life.
Jesus.
It's really good. I have to say that it is really excellent, but fuck me, it's vile.
Oh
like
my God.
It's by far one of the worst. I would say, like, it's a step down from Sombra by Prin. So it does take a step back from that. It's wearable because at the end of the day, at its core, it's just a beautiful leather fragrance that's really raw. And like I say, after a couple of hours, in fact, it does turn into quite a close wearing leather fragrance that just smells like diesel and leather. And it's, quite polite in a way because it's quite close sitting and it just smells like a kind of animalic sort of dirty leather. But those first 2 hours are
I'm excited to try.
Yeah, I'm sort of not excited to try. I feel like it's my kind of like I guess my moral duty to try it, but I'm not looking forward to it. And Fliss, I'm gonna bet, Fliss, that you find this overwhelmingly awful, and so do I, and it's completely unwearable. James might be able to fucking just about put up with it, I reckon.
Well, did you get any other Senyokos, Ben?
No, it's the only one I've tried.
Have you tried?
So this one, interestingly, is part of a duel. So you get Hora de la Verdad Sombra, and there's also Hora de la Verdad that's just plain, and they mean like light or I think Hora de la Verdad, I'm not sure, but it means sun and shade, and they're about bullfighting. And this one is the shade of the bullfighting, and apparently is about the death of the bull or the bullfighter.
Right.
Jesus.
So it's okay. Well, it's funny you should say that, Dan, because I was thinking
based on a Hemingway book as well, by the way. Sorry.
Right. I was thinking when you were saying that just having a guess as to who's, and talking about Ben's sort of high threshold and stuff like that. Well, like the other week, for example, Ben was like, about the Strange Loves. Oh, it's so animalic and I can't stand this. And you were like, what? What are you on about? So it might be the same with this perfume. Do you know what I mean? Perception is so it's what this is all about, isn't it? The whole reason we all have different opinions and stuff. So I am going to wager, well, I won't, not with real money, because I'm fucking skinned. So, but like with Dan, I think Dan's going to like this one.
No. There is no way. There is no fucking way. If Ben says it's unwearable for 2 hours, right? I mean, like that's like fucking basically just saying, Dan, you will hate this and you will be crying maybe for 2 hours, at least 2 hours, probably 8.
I think if you can get past those first 2 hours, I think actually all of you might find something to like it, because because Fliss, you like those kind of like you were saying about the horses earlier. Do you know what I mean? Like it's got a very like dirty leather, like engine oil leather. If you like the smell of like mechanic shops and leather jackets, then you're probably kind of going to like it.
Come on, we all know that my tastes are far too boring, and the odds of me liking this one are palpably zero.
I mean, it's the first 2 hours are a challenge. I say, like twice I was like, it made my throat close up.
It's actually made you have a physical reaction.
Yeah.
It's funny you say about the inspiration for it, because has anyone tried, I think it's an imaginary author's Bull's Blood?
Oh, yeah. No, I've not tried it, but...
Which kind of smells a little bit like shit and roses.
Oh, nice.
So, and again, it's one of those that I would go, no, I dismiss that. But the more I think about it from when I tried it, whenever it was, I'm like, yeah, I want to revisit that because I think I might like Shit and Roses now. But it's that that kind of bull sort of smell. I thought that's very good for the inspiration for it because you get the kind of red of the the matador's fucking cape and all that shit with the roses and the shit of the. So I imagine cows just always smell of shit, don't they?
I just
I should imagine the bullfighter's trousers.
Pretty brown as well.
Okay. I'm now feeling a little bit queasy. Look, for the love of
that's the end of my seven. Anyway,
thank fuck for that. For the love.
That's
of
why I keep
God.
it short. Normally.
Yeah. For the love of God, Fliss, take me away from this. Tell me about something nice you've been wearing.
Well,
please.
I was gonna say I'm gonna undercut everything by talking about the new Nikolai Caravanserai. Intense.
That sounds nice.
Yeah.
I wore that today.
Yeah.
I think that's absolutely fucking stonking.
It was delightful, isn't it? It's just...
Yeah, I do. I think it's a great perfume.
Yeah, I found it like a lovely spiced lactonic latte. The coffee wasn't too strong. It was there, but it wasn't like in my face. There was nice, the spicy cardamom in there. And then a lovely milky dry down. I just really liked it. I was like, yeah, okay. I don't think I'm going to need it in my collection. But if money was no object, I definitely would purchase a smaller bottle. Yeah.
It's a gourmand for people who are not into smelling like cake.
Yes, exactly that.
I think it's a really good perfume. I tried it. So weirdly, my mate Dave got like a bunch of bottles for sale, but about 5 minutes before he told me this, I just tried it in a Nikolai store in Paris. Not, I assume, the boutique that you'd mentioned, James, where she's got her whole like organ in the window kind of thing.
Oh yeah.
So this was just like a small shop, and the store assistant weirdly for Paris didn't speak any English, and my French is bullshit, but I managed to explain to her that I wanted to try the new one, and she dug it out. I tried it. I was like, this is really fucking good. And she looked at me like, huh? What is this idiot talking about? I said, thank you very much, and off I went outside, and turns out Dave's got 10 bottles of this. I'll have a bottle, please. Thank you very much.
No,
so
Dave sent me the sample.
Oh yeah, well, he's a good lad.
He's a good lad. Yeah.
He's a good lad. Well, don't tell him that, though.
No.
It's important that he doesn't know we think he's a good lad. I really enjoyed it. I really like it. Okay, cool. Well, that's that one.
Yeah.
Something else nice. The further we get away from Ben's kind of...
I did another Nikolai Angelis pear, which is a very light pear scent. It came as part of a bundle that I bought a while ago. And it's very cooling, it's very clean, little bit aquatic for my tastes, and it's verging ever so slightly on blue territory, that kind of blue feel.
Oh, really?
Huge silage.
I don't think I've tried it.
Yeah, and the aquatic nature of it, there's ever so slightly spermy excretions magnifique on the dry down. And the moment I clocked that, I was like, yeah, not keeping this one.
Spooge strikes again.
It was the initial blast was really fruity and juicy and light, and then as it dried down, it got more and more aquatic, and then by the end of the day, sniffing my wrist, I was like, that smells like the tail end of a Secretions Magnifique spray. Nah. But if you're into that aquatic thing, then have a go, because the silage is amazing. It lasts forever. Very good. What else did I do? Histoires du Parfum Ambra. I can't know how to pronounce this. Ambrarem.
Ooh.
Yeah. Umbrarum, maybe. Who knows? I don't.
Nor do I. Say it confidently. And then it's fine.
And then it's fine, yeah. Really, now, talking about marines, this has a very salty marine opening, but it mixes it with really, really dense incense notes, and there's a lot of myrrh in there that I can smell, even though it's not officially in the notes. And then it dries down to a lovely powdery leather. It's a really complex journey that it goes on, from this kind of quite sweet, salty feeling all the way through the incense to this powdery leather. Takes about 4 or 5 hours to get there. Really interesting. I don't think I know enough about this house, but Nick sent me this with those 3 tuberoses that he sent me last week, and I think he's got a huge collection of this house, and I might...
Sorry, which house was it?
Histoire de Parfum.
Oh, Histoire de Parfum.
Yeah. I'm really liking their style, actually. I think they might be a little house for me. I might need to check some more out.
I've got a couple.
Yeah.
They're really good.
Yeah. I'm enjoying the complexity of what I've tested from the house so far. They all seem to have a really interesting journey. And when we were talking about that Encelade not really having a journey, all of the ones that I have tested from the house of the last month really do have a massive journey. And I've...
Oh, well, that's interesting because, we were talking about having guests. You might cut this out. But, for our little mini thing that we're going to do, my mate Alexandra works for Histoire de Parfum.
Oh.
So he would come on and tell you all about them for ages.
I'd really like to have...
probably be really
that would be really interesting because I think I need to smell some more of them as well. I like... What I've smelt so far, I really like. And I was like, oh, okay. Anyway, what else? Violette du Tsar by Orisa du Legrand. Orisa Legrand. I don't know. Again, this was Nick sent it to me, and I don't know anything about this house at all.
Wow, I'm surprised you don't know anything about this house.
No.
This is like the ultimate. This is like, I nearly just have never mentioned these to you because I thought, oh, she'll probably have loads of them.
Oh, really?
They're like a really old, prestigious house of like all like vintage nuts, like love them, and they're super like cool.
Just when
brand.
you can be doing this, we'll talk about this in part 2, but you can be doing this for like 25 years. You can still know fuck all. It's amazing.
Exactly, yeah. And but they are particularly one. They've got one called Moose something.
Moose.
If you Moose, as in as in like Mousse de Chine. It's not called that, but it's called something else.
Oatmoss.
And so it's like Oatmoss, but it's got like a mushroomy, it's got that like fresh like mushroomy kind of note to it. They've got like a really famous for like fougere. They've got like this kind of again I forget the names of them, but they've got some really amazing
interesting stuff,
perfumes. Yeah, and they have like a little tassel on the bottle.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking at it. It looks so pretty. It looks
boutique and
it looks very nice.
So they're proper heritage, no like creed bullshit.
Purveyor
stories,
to the Russian court. There were French perfume makers who were chosen as purveyors to the Russian court. So
there you go.
Bloody knew what they were doing. Anyway, the Violette du Tsar. Having said all of that about how pretty and how interesting, I found this kind of the
shite.
Well, no, it's not shite. It's not shite, but it's not the violet that I was expecting. I think I was expecting this kind of very old-fashioned, bright, powdery violet, and I actually found it really quite aggressive, and it was petrol-y without being Fahrenheit-y, but it's not far off. And there's a sun-creamy feel underneath it, which makes it feel quite modern. And I'm squirreling it away for later discussions around violets that I probably will do in the spring, but it's not my favourite at all. I know this sounds a bit weird, but the du Tsar bit of it makes complete sense when you smell it, because it's kind of that intense, aggressive kind of Russian feel. If you know what I mean. I'm not explaining it very well.
Now you did the voice. I know exactly.
Oh, right, yeah. I'll get you now.
That sort of violet, of course she knows.
With apologies to all our Russian listeners.
She not my favourite. Anyway. And then I also...
They're penning a letter to you right now. She not my favourite.
Yes, no.
Thrown out of a window by the end of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's what happens.
Well, apparently, yeah. Well, you get little people be sending me little perfume bottles, won't they? That's how the Russians kill.
Just don't sniff it.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
Pierre Guillaume Paris, Louange Profane 19. I don't know why all this bloody French pronunciation. Anyway. Again,
Novichok.
Again, I
haven't. Oh yes, that Pierre Guillaume Novichok one. Yeah, it comes in a little Salisbury Cathedral perfume vial. This is bad. This is going to get us censored by
those who will censor us.
By the Kremlin.
Just when you thought Aura de la Veridad was bad, at least it doesn't put you in hospital.
Yeah. Fuck's sake. Right. Come on, Polonium 210.
Sorry.
Louange Profane 19 by Pierre Guillaume Paris. Big floral amber, white flowers, incense. But for me, I felt it had a real feel of Poem by Lancôme about it, which is actually kind of more yellow flowers and white flowers, but it has that same really sweet and sticky, rich, dense feel. It's very benzoin heavy. There's a honeyness to it, which I'm not sure was my favourite either. There's almost a marzipan note with some bitter almonds in there, and there's a tonka in the dry down that makes it almost powdery. So it has a slightly almost Christmassy feel for me. But yeah, it's really dense, and I kind of like it, but I kind of like it because it reminds me of Poem, which I used to wear when I was younger and is now much harder to find in good batches. I don't know if I actually like it because I want to wear it, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And then I wore today I was wearing a Cricket Song by Floraiku because I was selling it. And I was just like, do I really want to sell this?
Oh, you're selling it?
Yeah.
Never do that.
Yeah.
Never try it before you sell it.
No, and I wore it and I was like, this is nice. And then I was like, come on, Fliss. And then, it reminded me that actually it was very nice. It's a very delightful, clean musk. On Fragrantica, people talk about it going into like laundry detergent territory, but it doesn't do that for me at all. It just feels very, very clean and nice, but it doesn't have any depth to it. And I think even for office wear, I like a bit more growl in my musks. And so shit's got to go.
It's
pretty bottle or not.
Were you trying to provoke Ben into a sort of epic rant?
Well, I know I
again.
nearly didn't talk about these because I know that he has had several epic rants.
It's his
about
trigger.
This. It's one of his trigger brands, yes. But it's okay, Ben. It's sold. I don't have it anymore. You can let it go.
Good. Okay, I'll leave it there then.
He's rocking in his chair now, waiting to get going.
But it's so shit.
Right. Fliss, what else have you got on your list?
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
Thank fucking God. Right.
Charming.
I didn't mean you. I meant thank God we're getting to the end of part one.
Thank God we're getting rid of all of you.
Considering we've only had like 6 or 7 each, this has actually taken longer than when we have had 2 weeks worth.
Way fucking longer. Way longer.
What have you been wearing, Dan?
That's a good question. Well, I have not been feeling great, as I mentioned. There's a few things. So I've been wearing this incredibly ornate-looking thing, which is from a brand called Katana.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yeah. No, they're a good... you know what I was saying about the Castoreum earlier? That's who I smelt one of theirs that used natural Castoreum.
Oh, right. Wow. Well...
sorry, carry on.
Well, they're quite serious, I think. This one's called Je vois encore Cada dans tes yeux, which means...
Fucking hell.
I can still see Cada in your eyes. I think it's just Cada for short, though. Anyway, it sort of smells a bit tobacco oody. It's all right. The presentation's better than the perfume, in my view. But there you go. I mean... They can't all be winners. They spent all their money on the presentation. I've been wearing this as well, which I don't know if you can see that. That is a Chopard, and it is Cedar Malachi.
Malachi.
Malachi. Is it Malachi?
Malachi.
I would say
Malachi?
Malachi, like one of the like the wise king.
That would be
How's it spelled?
That would be a CHI at the end, wouldn't it? This is
I don't
spelled
know.
Malaki.
It's a type of oud.
What?
Okay, I'm wrong. That's fine.
I think.
Is it? Right, well, I'm
a region or something like that.
Well, I'm going with Cedar Malachi. It's in a nice green thing. Apparently, it's a Harrods exclusive. I got sent.
This is one of the expensive show parts.
It's not. No, not particularly. I think it's like. Well, I say not particularly. It's like 90 quid or 95 quid for. What's this? 80 mil. I paid 55 for it on sort of second hand buy, and it's really nice. It's quite. It's green, but not in that sort of like astringent, sharp sort of way. It's more sort of more has a feel of sort of foliage rather than cut grass kind of thing. It's really, I really like it. It's basically a sort of slightly spicy green woody, but really classy. Good, performance for the bros. Yeah, I'm digging that. And then just usual assortment of nonsense, really. I can't. I wore Roger Elysium yesterday, like loads of it, and it's really nice. And my daughter said I smelled great because, of course, one does smell nice wearing those kinds of things. Don't wear them a lot. Oh, and this one. This is. You must know this. Yeah, we've talked about this before. So this is Aqua Quorum, yellow cap, blue bottle. Very, very much not Fliss's thing.
We're all on the verge of a rant today, aren't we? Getting at the sport perfume.
It basically smells like Polo Sport. Yeah, and I think as Ben has pointed out, it was the same perfumer. About the same sort of time. It was clearly just a retread. Anyway, so those are those. Let's have a quick news. Does anyone have any news? The only news I have got is that apparently there is a new Tom Ford Grey Vetiver Parfume coming. It's an airport exclusive. Not that I saw it in an airport, but a friend of mine did. And it's got an added note of saffron. So I stand by to be underwhelmed. I can't imagine that's going to improve it, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I mean, I love the original Perfume, but saffron just being like shoehorned into that, in my imagination, I think it's probably not good, but like it probably won't be that. So let's give it a try, give it a chance.
Let's give it a whirl.
I don't go anywhere. I don't go to any airports. So I'm not going to try it.
It will not be an airport exclusive for all that long. I'm quite sure of that. In which case, let me wrap up part one, and I would ask you to name that perfume again, Ben, but actually I don't want to know. It sounds horrible. And I will be taking that thought with me into the break. We will be back in just a moment with part two of Les Oderants. Stick with us. Hello and welcome back to part two of Les Oderants. This week we are talking about collections. Who, where, when, what, how much have you got? Have you got it together? If so, how often? Which you choose, a hard or soft option? I don't know, I just went all Pet Shop Boys there.
That's
for a minute.
amazing.
Well, you say amazing, I say worrying. But nevertheless, we are talking collections. What's the shape of your collection? What's the thinking behind it? Is it just a chaotic mess? Full disclosure, I have a collection of maybe 200 or so bottles of perfume. They are not well organised. They're just sort of all thrown together. I don't tend to keep boxes for the most part. There's no overarching fucking like grand design to my perfume collection. I do this badly. I'm a bad collector. How about you guys? James, tell me about your perfume collection.
I haven't counted them in a while.
Ish,
about 300 to 300 and some
bottles.
Yeah. I don't count like other stuff.
Samples, decants, and
samples, decants, minis, thousands.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like fucking loads. But like I say, like that many. And yeah, I do occasionally have a little cull and get rid of some. I haven't bought any for ages, I must say. And the only ones that I have bought have been kind of meaningful. Maybe again, this is kind of skipping ahead, but I go through different phases of, I think everybody does, of what am I doing here? Am I just hoarding things for the sake of it? Am I ever going to use all this perfume? Obviously not.
Obviously not.
Is it really the best use of my money, time, effort, whatever? And sometimes you think no, and you think, what the hell am I doing? But no, generally speaking, I kind of come back round to, well, I enjoy it. And I don't think having about 300 or so is super unhealthy.
Well, you're not doing anyone any harm with it either.
No.
And that's what I keep reminding my long-suffering wife that, I'm not like gambling. I don't have a drink problem. Well, not a very serious drink problem. and I don't have a drugs problem since the incident.
It's when you start drinking the perfume.
Indeed. Okay, well, I'm definitely going to be coming back to all of you, but just for a quick baseline, Ben, how many do you have, and are they principally bottles or what?
About 250, I think. So it's probably pretty well in the middle of 200 and 300 bottles. I again, like everyone else, probably I've got about 3 carrier bags full of samples and decants that are just literally chaos. I just fill up another carrier bag until it's to the brim, and then I start a new one.
Yeah, I just buy increasingly large containers. Sort of empty the one into the next one. Like Russian dolls. Yeah, sorry, I've got to stop mentioning the Russians. We were contacted by the Kremlin during the break and asked to stop going on about that shit. Excellent. Okay, and Fliss?
I think I've got the smallest collection. Over the last 3 years, I've made a really concerted effort to curate my collection, and I went down from about 250 to now I have 75 bottles that I call my collection, and I have a 5-bottle buffer of things that are either rolling in or rolling out. And then whenever anything rolls out, because I have a strict 1 in, 1 out policy now, I take 10 ml a decant and I label it very carefully, and I put it in my what I call my mini osmotique, and I've got about 250 labelled 10 ml decants of things that have been through my collection. But at the moment, I found I was so stressed out with the huge amount that I had, and also just the amount of money that was sitting there, that I did a really big cull, and it's hugely curated. And then all my samples that are smaller than 10 ml, I have in little kind of like craft boxes, and they are all arranged by either house or note.
Oh my God.
And all of them, everything is in a spreadsheet. Everything is in a spreadsheet.
Oh my God. What the fuck? I suddenly feel incredibly inadequate. Well, no, tell me about the curating process. How does that work?
I realised that every time I opened my perfume drawers or cabinets, I was getting really stressed out with the amount that I had. And I also had a period of ill health when I as I'm self-employed, I wasn't working, that I needed to just free up some cash. So I began the curation. And the curation for me is, how much do I love something? It's got to be a 5 or a 5-star. And I even began getting rid of things that I knew were very, very rare because I wasn't wearing them. And if I don't wear it and I don't desperately love it, it doesn't get to stay. And there are things that I think that I like a lot, but if I've got something else in my collection that does the same but better, then that one stays and the other one. I don't really have any kind of dupey stuff going on.
Okay, so that's quite a good rule, I think. Having something that does the job better.
Yeah.
I occasionally deploy that. I got rid of a few vetivers recently because I acquired the Dior vetiver and sort of felt like, the Dior does it better.
Yeah. So why have anything subpar in your cupboard? That's my thinking. Is if I can sell that subpar thing and either put that money towards something else or buy a perfume that I really love, then that subpar thing, that should get out. Get out.
It should. But I find in my collection there are things that I love, truly love, and they will be part of the collection on their own merits. There are things that I like, but I'm hesitant to sell because I know I'd never be able to track it down again if I changed my mind. Stuff. Certainly, a lot of the vintage stuff belongs in that category.
Those are the hardest things I had to sell, I think.
But there's a couple of other categories for me as well. Well, so stuff that is too cheap to bother selling, because I personally I can't be asked to spend £4.50 posting something that
But then do a random act of kindness in one of the groups. Or pass it on.
I just can't even be asked. Yeah,
it's not really kindness though. Offloading your absolute shite on people.
Dreg. Yeah, but I've got my bottle of Mandate, which, by the way, is not. We discussed that on this program. It's a good old perfume. It's solid, but I wouldn't bother selling it because it's not even worth the postage of fucking selling it. But then there's another category as well, which is just things that are too. I couldn't sell it because I'd paid too good a price for it in the first place, and so I don't know. A good example of that might be the I've got Flowers Turn Purple, the Floriku Flowers Turn Purple, which I got for £80. Well, no, £75. I couldn't bring myself to sell that for £75. This would be heartbreaking. So it stays, even though
that's a
really like it.
really nice perfume. Though you sent me a very generous decant, and I really enjoyed it.
It is very nice. Is it love? Does it sort of make my kind of heart skip a beat? No, it doesn't. But so I think there's more than just stuff what I love in the collection. But then there's stuff like the Perfume, which is that I've got the vintage Perfume Pour Homme, which I really like. I don't think I love it, but I don't think I can sell it because chances of finding another bottle of that are fucking zero. Pretty well zero.
But then that comes on to, like, what are you collecting for, doesn't it? Like, it's not just the pure enjoyment of the perfume. It's other factors as well, isn't it? Obviously.
Oh, completely.
The fact you've said that,
I'd also add to that as well, like the Floriku, for £75, it's kind of nice to have that in your collection because it's quite a unique
bloody
presentation,
beautiful.
and
it's
a
the
really
nicest
nice
presentation,
right?
It's just gorgeous.
They are lovely, but ultimately they just take up sort of space. I guess I collect as much for having it. Just the feeling of having it, whatever that means exactly, as much as I like the perfume. Also, because I spend a lot of time taking photos of these things, which to any normal person, this sounds utterly ridiculous, but I enjoy taking photos of, product photography, but the product of choice is perfume. Incidentally, by the way, side note on that, I follow a number of product photography groups on Facebook, and perfume bottles are now the sort of go-to product for people to photograph. So there is something in that, that just photographing bottles. I'm not the only person in the world doing this, which is good news. There are a few other weirdos. But yeah, I won't deny. I keep some.
There's only one weirdo.
There's only one fragrance weirdo. Correct. Boom. I do keep some of them just for the sake of like taking pretty photographs of them and stuff. But anyway, James, talk to me about why your collection is as it is.
That's a very broad question. I'm not sure. It's been through a few things, like Fliss was saying. I tried to have sort of limits, and for a long time, I still considered myself a fan of perfume and somebody who somewhat collected perfume. But I only had about maybe 30 to 50 for like a long time, and like when I'd actually use them up and then get rid of them. But then probably from about, it must have been just pre-2010 maybe, was when I really started to just be like, I'm going to have a cupboard and I'm literally just going to get whatever I want, and I'm going to get vintage perfumes and I'm going to get all kinds of shit. And then I have the odd freak out where I go, what am I doing? And I have sold things that I kind of maybe would still want now, but then in kind of moments of weakness, you go no, or you go yes, or whatever. And there's loads of shit that I've bought for retail. And I do have that thing of like, I don't like, swapping and thingy. It's a very like personal thing to me, even to purchase a bottle. It's like, even if it's a spontaneous thing and I kind of regret it, I'm like, it's that to me, I don't kind of want like stuff off other people. It's great that people share stuff, and it makes total sense to do it. But I kind of feel I like the retail experience, and I feel, again, not to get on me fucking soapbox about this, but I feel as though like that's kind of going away a little bit. I don't think it'll ever totally go away, but a lot of people are like doing stuff online, or and it kind of ruins the thing of going out with some readies in your pocket and going to a fragrance counter and getting all the smell of the fucking Ambroxan or whatever, like when you're a mile away from it, and that sense of like excitement of like, what am I gonna discover? I like that. I'm kind of a bit old school about like how I add to my collection, but that's not to say that I haven't got things from people. And
also that I think the online shopping experiences, depending on where you shop, has really changed. I mean, there's some amazing, really personal experiences, I think, now in terms of, who am I thinking of? Brooke. You buy anything from Brooke and you get loads of samples, you get a handwritten note. It's a beautiful experience. I don't mind buying.
That's true. Yeah.
I'm sort of with you on that. It's just I feel awful paying retail price for any perfume. I feel like I've
been diddled.
I feel like I've done something wrong. Like I don't know. Cool. Okay. And your collection, James, is it just sort of is it all stuff you love? Because I don't think it is. I think there's plenty of stuff you say you hate in there, right?
There is. Yeah, that's like I say, that's kind of an interesting.
Why do you keep the stuff you hate?
Do you want to know really why? Because I can't be arsed selling it.
I thought that might be it.
I can't be arsed interacting with people on Facebook. I can't be arsed wrapping things up in a thing. I can't be arsed going to the post office That's it, really. So I keep these shitty perfumes around. Like this one here. I've been trying to get rid of this fucker for ages, right? And then I'm just like,
Bond. It's the Bond, isn't it?
It's the Bond.
It is.
If you can't be arsed, then it ain't going
I might
nowhere.
turn around and be like, this is the greatest perfume ever. It's my favourite. Like, at some point.
You have to shill the fucking balls off it so that people start approaching you for it.
But I'm sure I will. I go through, like I say, I go through phases. I have bought and sold hundreds and hundreds of perfumes, right? There's no, I have done it before. But I don't know, like I say, I just can't be arsed at the moment. And I really should, because I don't really have money to like buy perfume at the moment because I'm just fucking skint.
But who does? This is the thing. I think there would.
Well, yeah, exactly. But it's not even the thing of like, oh, I can find the money, because I never had the money, but I'd find it. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now I can't even find it. So I'm just kind of like, well, there's stuff that I need more than perfume. And I'm quite happy to have samples or whatever, and I can kind of still sort of eke through. But I'll get to a point where there's nothing as satisfying as buying a perfume, is there? Do you know what I mean? Like, even if it's that thing of even if it might be a disappointment when it comes or whatever, the actual act of buying it, and that's part of the problem with a lot of people. It's that like retail therapy, like nice sort of feeling that you get, and even the pangs of like guilt of like, oh, should I really be spending the money on that? But then you think, oh no, the payoff is going to be, and then sometimes it isn't, and sometimes it is, and
I don't blind buy the way I used to anymore. I used to be a terrible blind buy. I would just read before Fragrantica. I would just read books, like all the books, and just blind buy from that. But now there's Fragrantica, which I kind of stopped believing actually recently. In terms of letting it influence me. But yeah, I used to blind buy like a bitch, but now I'm like, get a decant, wear the hell out of it. If I still love it, get another decant and then buy.
Oh my God, that's so rational. So rational. I mean, I almost never buy a perfume that I've tried. There's something something about having the bubble burst for me. If I actually try it, it's very, very rare that will then convert to an actual purchase. I think the last one I can remember trying before buying was a Bodicea one, actually, Amber Sapphire, which, by the way, I love, absolutely love. But very few of them, when you try them, I find I love them. And I think the reason for that is I'm much more inclined to convince myself I'm going to love something based on reading about it and projecting all sorts of kind of positive stuff onto it and going, oh, well, this sounds like a bit of me. This is going to be perfect. I will blind buy that. And then it shows up and it's kind of 99 times out of 100. It's a bit of a disappointment, but just occasionally you get that blind buy that goes right. Just like, fucking hell, this is brilliant. Oh, I'm so happy. But yeah, I almost never sample before buying.
Do you feel that it like validates those kind of thoughts that you had about it or assumptions or whatever? Is that what's so satisfying about it, that you go, oh, I knew that I thought I would like that, forgetting all the 9 out of 10 that you didn't fucking, that were like a disappointment?
Yeah, no, I don't think it validates my thinking about it. It's more just the sort of that gambler type mentality.
It's a bit of a kink for you, isn't it? You're kind of like, oh yeah, what? I kind of, yeah. I could see the way you were describing it. You had a little twinkle in your eye.
Yeah, it's like I think it was in Mad Men, where they described, maybe it was Mad Men, maybe it was somewhere else, but they described the selling advertising and saying to always start with a very rough outline sketch. The more detail you put on it, the more things there are for people to object. And sort of buying perfume without having a sample is sort of along those lines, right? Because you're reading it and you go, ooh, this perfume was based on, King Henry VIII's whatever. And he's like, well, there's no real reason to object to that. So, sounds like a good old story. Notes list sounds all right. Bet that's okay. If you actually smell it, you're right in the detail of it, and odds are you won't buy it. I don't know. I like buying. For me, buying and selling them is sort of part of the experience. There's no good explanation for that. I don't think that's necessarily a good thing or a bad thing. It's just, for me, part of the experience is definitely the blind buying and the selling. And over time, I seem to have accumulated, a couple of 100 bottles of perfume. I don't really know what I'm doing with my life, actually, on reflection.
I do think the selling, I completely agree about the selling being definitely part of the experience, particularly once you're in a group of like-minded individuals. And so every time you're selling or you're passing things on, you'll also get some samples thrown in, or someone else might go, oh, what else do you like? And they might put a little decant of something else for you to try. And so there's a real community feel as these, my husband jokes that it's like the same 100 bottles just going round and round the group constantly until they get...
He's not wrong.
He's not wrong, is he? But there is that community feel of passing them on, passing other little bits of deliciousness on with it. And then, and also then when you're like messaging people to say I've sent it, you'll then go, and how are you? And there's a community chat happening as well.
You love that community aspect, don't you?
I love it. I really, really do. Yeah. And I love all the little parcels I send out every week and the little parcels I get in. It's, for me, that's exactly... It's like a little lifeline.
For me, like, I think I can probably count the amount of retail purchases I've made on one hand, and they were for things that I just fucking loved and I wanted like quickly, or needed to buy them now or whatever. But generally speaking, like I think perfume collecting for me is a perfect parallel to my record collection as well, in that I tend to like listen to something, and if I like it, I want it on vinyl. Because I want the vinyl, and that's that. I might not listen to it ever again. I mean, if I've got it on vinyl, I might still stream it on my streamer, but I want it on vinyl, right? And that's kind of the same with perfume. Like, in fact, I buy perfumes and I put the bottle on my shelf and go, yes, but then I still use the sample, and I still have samples for like,
yes. Yeah. do you say that to yourself?
I stand back and I put my hands on my waist, so I say, yes. But then, like my own noir, for example. Like, I bought a bottle of that, right? I fucking loved it. I haven't actually really sprayed the bottle because I've got a decant that I'm still using. So
you've sent more out in decants as to people to try than you've actually used yourself.
But I mean, so for me, like that side of it as well, to sort of like stretch the analogy as well, I find like Facebook to be like crate digging. Like, I could get the retail experience and I could find what I want online and buy it in like tonight if I want to, or I could stick something on a wish list and go, one day that's going to come up on Facebook and then I'm going to snag it, and that's slightly more fun, because then it's like Facebook becomes like, the groups become like a little treasure trove of like possibilities. And it's a bit like crate. You
have to enjoy the chase, though. Yeah. Don't you? There's got to be an element of you enjoying the chase, whereas I just don't. And I think it's almost like I'll pay that extra bit so I don't have to do all that shit.
Yeah. See, all the shit is the fun bit. Actually, having the perfume is probably the least fun bit for me.
On the subject of chase, James, do you have any? I guess unicorns that are not part of your collection that you need as part of your collection, that you're always sort of on the lookout for?
Yeah, loads. I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but you mentioned the Patu, which obviously I want those. I mean, I say, like, I kind of go, oh yeah, all these vintage snobs going on, but there are quite a lot of vintage perfumes that I want. But by the same rule, I kind of like have accepted that, I can buy modern ones. But anyway, that's another discussion. Let me think of some that I maybe want. I mean, obviously, Derby. I mean, things like that. Or what do I want? There's a definite list. I can't really think at the moment, but it's one of those things that it would be a real treat for me. to purchase some of the things that I want. Maybe like, I'll come back to you on that.
Okay, I mean, I had for a long time a kind of a list of different particular things that I wanted to make sure I sort of snagged, but I think I've got them all now. So like, it took me ages to get by Man, D&G by Man. Obviously the Perfume, Derby. Most recently, Nabucco, Parfum Le Fan. I don't know if you know it, but it's ludicrously sort of priced now, but discontinued sort of perfume oil, which was it basically smells like Eau Sauvage, if I'm being honest. But it's really lovely. But that was the last kind of unicorn for me that I've been trying to sort of hunt down, and so I managed to get that one. I can't think of anything that's on my list now. I see it a bit like Ben does, this idea of digging through the crates and just seeing what's there. But also, when I actually did used to collect vinyl and I used to dig through the crates, I used to buy stuff based on what the cover looked like. You know, it's like, yeah, that's a cool cover. I'll have that. What is it? Who's the artist? No idea. But look at that fucking cover. It's cool. And I sort of do that a little bit with perfume bottles. Is the honest truth. I'll buy a perfume bottle because it looks good.
I'll give you a couple. Sorry.
No, go on. Do yours, James.
I just a couple because I've literally looked on my want list on Fragrantica, which is, again, probably not really the best place to look for stuff. There's a couple from Perfume Roma. Expensive brand, really good brand. Don't own
no longer in the UK either.
Yeah, well, there you go. And I still haven't. Again, they've probably been on the list for a long time, and I haven't purchased them. Just stuff with a stupid bottle. Like there's a fragrance by. Let me think it. There's a fragrance by Michel Germain called Sexual Sugar Daddy. I want that. It's probably fucking shite. In fact, when I was in America, because they don't really have these perfumes here. These are like, you know, regular kind of drugstore fucking perfumes over there. And I walked past the stand and they had all because they're all called sexual or they're all called sugar. No, they're all called something. Let me have a look. Right. Anyway, there's a range of these perfumes, right? And sexual sugar daddy. Right. Okay. They're all called sexual, right? So the sexual.
I'm just sexual, looking at them. Can you stop saying sexual?
Sorry.
It's making me very uncomfortable.
Sexual fresh, sexual night, sexual noir, sexual Paris, sexual noir for women. Sexual tendre pour femme. Sexual Paris. Oh my God!
They've got sexual secret. Sexual secret and sexual
secret.
Well, no, they've got one called Sexual Secret Men.
Yeah, well, there you go. There's loads of them. See, the sexual star.
There's all these sexual secret men.
Yeah, but Sexual Sugar Daddy was the one that appealed to me. That probably says, you know, more about me than anything else. But then there's like another one. So this is a cool one, right? This is a cool one that I actually kind of remember being around, but I never got, from like early 2000s. It was called UFO, Unidentified Fragranced Object.
Oh my
God. Think it's some shit like that. By Kenzo. It's by Kenzo. Look at the bottle, Dan. You will fucking want the bottle, right? The bottle is cool as fuck, right? And I actually I nearly bought it. And then I didn't. And now it's like a fucking.
It's like an infinity story.
No way. Yeah, but it's cool. The actual bottle, when you see the actual bottle in the flesh, it's brilliant. God. It's fucking brilliant.
Oh my God, look at that.
Wow.
And the pictures don't even do it justice, man.
So I think this sort of does like bring onto what I was going to sort of interrupt you with, James, earlier, is that for me, like bottles and what Dan was saying, bottles do I find I end up sometimes collecting bottles. Like, for example, the Hermès Jardin collection. I wanted all of them. Luckily, they're all pretty good perfumes, but I wanted them because they go together and they work as a collection together. And I find myself getting trapped in that a little bit. Like, another one would be Beaufort Hell and High Water collection. I bought all 5, despite the fact that one of them I really don't like, but I wanted it to complete the collection. That traps me a little bit. Masque Milano is another one. I just like their bottles, and so I like collecting their bottles. But luckily, their perfumes are fucking good as well. So
I had to, when I did my big clear out, I had to really rationalise which ones I just was keeping for the bottle, and I had to tell myself, you're not a bottle collector, Fliss, you are a perfume collector. Take the 10ml decant, squirrel it away in a really... Someone said to me, "Oh, don't aren't your decants like really dodge?" And there was someone on the group was saying that they suffer from evaporation and stuff. I've been decanting into beautiful little 10ml vials for a long time, never had a problem. But it's the juice that I want. It's not the bottle. It was such a hard thing to make that kind of brain thing happen. Is it the bottle or is it the juice that you want, Fliss? Which is it? Yeah, it's hard though. But I think that's the other thing is like having to make a decision. I've made a decision that I'm collecting perfume to wear. Yeah. If money was no object and I could do whatever I wanted, I would have a huge historical collection that would include beautiful bottles, interesting smells that I wouldn't necessarily wear, but I'm just interested because they are so of its time that they would then become some kind of reference fragrance for 1926 or a reference fragrance for the 30s or the early 40s in America. All of that kind of stuff. I would love to have... that historical
you have
thing.
An outlet as well. You've got this podcast as well, and your Instagram, whatever. You've got an outlet for talking about these things, and it's just like that might be interesting to have in my collection. There's that aspect to it as well. Like Dan, with Instagram, or like Ben talking about things on YouTube. Sometimes that is a motivation for people to add things to their collection that they might not have done before, or like things that are new just for the sake of it. I'm going to go and try this new perfume. I'm not saying anybody here is into doing that, but like on like YouTube or whatever, people want to be the first to like get the thing up there and talk about it. That could be their motivation for getting perfumes that they don't necessarily like the smell of or think the bottle's great or anything like that, but they have a kind of social media sort of feel they have an obligation to do it or whatever. I have
to say, I feel like in my collection and my tastes, I'm very glad that I'm not particularly interested in vintages, which is possibly blasphemous to say, but it makes collecting and buying like a damn sight easier and cheaper because I'm not that fussed. I'm not like my unicorns. Like I say, I could probably buy all of my unicorns if I just wanted to go on Google and just bang it in and buy it from a shop. But I'd rather wait for it to come up cheap. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm tight-assed. But they're nothing that probably won't come up ever. Do you know what I mean? I know that all mine are probably out there somewhere and not that hard to get either. Royal Crown Imperator and Ormond Jane Woman are the two that I'm kind of top of my list at the moment. And actually, weirdly, I haven't seen them come up. But I know that they probably will. I know that neither of them are...
They will eventually.
Neither of them are rare. Neither of them are old. Do you know what I mean? And I could probably buy both of them if I just went on Google. But... I just wait.
Of course you can. Yeah, you just need to throw money
exactly,
at that.
Yeah. Whereas, for you guys who collect your vintages, it's less of a... You can't just throw money at it sometimes. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not there.
Oh, I don't know. You can. I've missed out on a couple of very old Shalimar perfume extrait bottles in the old... beautiful glass,
like
the Baccarat glasses, and 1940s, 1950s stuff. Just because the bidding just went too high, and I was like, I cannot justify paying that much for that much.
Yeah. so some of them are out there, but then a lot of them simply are just not out there to be purchased anymore.
Oh, Iris Gris by Jacques Fath. Oh my god!
Yeah,
I want it. I want to smell it just once.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I think I'd quite liked it. I'd read about that one. I guess the only other unicorn is the what's the one where the guy made the one perfume and died?
Shiseido.
Shiseido, yeah. And what's it called? Is it something noir or something? We'll
Nombre Noir.
That's it. Shiseido Nombre Noir. And I think the story of it was that some sort of, perfume wunderkind.
Jean-Yves Leroy.
Yeah, Leroy. It's Leroy. And it's Leroy from down road. I think it's the only perfume he's ever made, I think. And basically, shortly after he made it, I think he died. And also, there was then some weird problem with the bottles, which leaked. And so they were all recalled, but not all of them were recalled. So it's become this sort of mythical, you can get it. They do pop up from time to time, little 4 ml samples and such on eBay. You can get it, but I was told by someone who collects vintage stuff that it's all but impossible to get one that hasn't actually just turned at this point.
Yeah.
So it'd smell really, because it was quite a delicate perfume apparently. But I'd still love to try it. But I'm not prepared to spend £1,000 on a blind buy of something mental like that. I'll need to dig out the full story for Nombre Noir. But
interesting you say about things turning. Don't you worry about the whole collection?
Not really.
No.
Nah.
If they're stored properly, not really.
As long as they smell okay when I receive them, I've no problem. I'm sure they'll be, I know they'll be well looked after. So actually, I'd like to talk a little bit about how you organise stuff, but I do keep mine, on a bunch of shelves in a dark cupboard in a sort of cool room. There's no direct sunlight getting into those fuckers. So I think they'll keep just fine. But something I wanted to just come back to, Ben, you said that you've got a couple, I think it was the Beaufort and the Hermès Jardin lines, where you've got the completed collection. And I'm quite interested in that, because I don't have anything where I've got a completed collection. I suppose I've got most of the Widian 71 versions apart from one, and I'd probably buy that one just for the sake of having the complete Widian 71 collection. But beyond that, I don't think I have any. Fliss, do you have any complete collections?
For a while, I had the entire Annick Goutal line, but it was the Annick Goutal, not... This was before it became Maison Goutal. Just Annick Goutal. So all that, the modern soir bollocks, which I don't think are very good, not at all. But the old Annick Goutal, I had all of them. And I still have all of them.
Ambre Fetiche.
I've got quite a lot of Ambre Fetiche. But I still have the whole line, but some of them are now in my 10ml decants, and because I just wasn't wearing some of them. But in terms of the smell, I've got the smells. But I couldn't line up the bottles in the way that I used to be able to.
Oh, well, if you can't line them up for a photo, it isn't real. So, James, do you have any completed ranges or collections or anything like that?
I don't think so. I've got quite a lot of Amen, which is not really something that I kind of want to admit. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure.
Which ones are missing? You don't have that awful crypto mint, do you?
No, that I kind of stopped even bothering getting them. When that was out, everyone said it was shit, and I was like, well, I haven't tried it. I actually got rid of some of those as well. So, but I've kept some. But what else have I got? I think I might have even got, and this is so shit as well, I think I might have even got the full line of these.
Is that the 24?
Yeah. So the other ones are like real fucking dog shit. I got those, and even like the oud versions. Like, so there's oud versions of these.
Platinum and gold,
platinum and
it's all Scent Story, isn't it?
Yeah, and they're sort of rubbish. And then they brought out a load more after that, and I was like, no. So, which ones have I got? No, I don't think I have got any other full lines.
Okay, so if you don't have full lines, is there any one house or brand that you have more of, or materially more of, than anything else in your collection?
Serge Lutens, I've probably got about 10 of those, maybe, or something.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And maybe what else? No, not really. And this is another thing. I deliberately don't do that, even if I love a brand. There's loads of brands that I love, but I'm kind of like, no, I've got 2 from that, so get something else from something else. Do you know what I mean? Hermes.
Would you buy a perfume just to complete a collection, like what Ben has?
Would
you buy something you didn't like?
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm not sure I would, but I've got the 3 Armani ones, and I think I only need 1 more to complete that particular collection. So maybe
Armani
I should do that. But,
what is that?
Like the Armani, just like the in the sort of Armani O for men.
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah.
Like,
I remember saying that to you. I said, in fact, I was a bit of a twat. You put up a picture of all of them, and I went, "Oh, have you got this one?" And it clearly you didn't have that one because it wasn't on the picture.
Yeah, I think I'm missing 2. I think I'm missing 2. I'm missing the original one and the oud
green
one.
Oh, right. There's a green flanker, isn't there, as well?
Yeah, Maybe I've got that one. That's the cedar one.
Yeah,
it's all right. It's quite. I think it's quite polite,
okay.
Actually, it's serviceable stuff. Okay, and sorry, Ben, because I could see you were saying something, but I couldn't hear you through my cans. So what did I miss there? Sorry.
Yeah, the true sort of mentor of my buying collections, right? So I think that so the brand that I have the most of in my collection is Xerjoff, of all brands.
Really?
See, that really surprises me.
I have 14 Xerjoff perfumes. Yes.
Whoa!
And partly the reason...
Don't you slag them off quite a lot?
No, I don't. So I quite... But, I mean, I think they're all...
He's a complicated lad.
He really is, isn't he?
They're all polite and nice. Like, they're the sort of perfumes that I wear when I actually socialise, you know what I mean? Like,
okay, go on. Hit us with your 14s. How many can you name?
This is it. The concerning thing...
Ben's doing the full 14.
Full
Xerjoff edition.
The concerning thing is that I bought a lot of them because they were the cheap blue Join the Club ones, and I just got into collecting those Join the Club lines, and I was like,
even though you hate the whole concept of that line, you've ranted about how.
But I quite like a lot of the perfumes, but there are a lot in there that I bought that I don't like Birdie, for example.
Yeah,
and,
gross.
Marquis,
Fatal Charm.
I don't really like
Marquis?
Fatal Charm. I fucking love actually. Fatal Charm's one that got me started because I smelt that and I really liked it, and I just tracked it down. And it was quite hard to get. So it satisfied everything because it was quite hard to get at a good price. And it was like not, a bit of a unicorn in a way because it wasn't a popular one like 40 knots or whatever. And I finally got it in the little blue bottle, and then that kicked me off like, I'm going to crate dig all of these motherfuckers. And I started getting them all. And so, I mean, I got like nearly, I think all of that collection minus 1, even the weird one that I got off the group that was... given out at some special event, and
I think I know the
1862
one you mean. 1862 polo or
that's
whatever
it. Yeah. Like, I bought that purely because I needed it to finish the collection. But otherwise, I mean,
you are the collector's collector. Just on the subject of Xerjoff, I want to shout out 2 social media people. I don't even know who they are, but both of them, I want to congratulate them on their pronunciation of the word Xerjoff. There's this Scottish guy who makes these fucking shit. Sorry, mate, if you're listening, but they are shit. fucking videos on like YouTube and Instagram, and he kept calling it jerk off, and but not even in like a sort of like ironic way, just like he thought they were called jerk off. And then there was a video.
I think Fliss needs to do it in her best Russian accent.
No, I'm
yeah,
sorry.
Probably not. And then there's this Scouse girl who pronounces it Exajoff.
Yeah, I've seen her videos. I have seen her videos.
Exajoff. Yeah, nice. Just wrong. Okay, well that does surprise me that you have 14 Zerjoff.
And that's
Jesus.
weird, isn't it?
Yeah. All right, Fliss, what's your dominant house? Is it still Goutal? In bottles wise, you can't count your decants.
I see. I think that it hurts me when you say I can't count my decants because my decants are now this osmotique that I've grown, this library of things that actually
osmotique. You can give it a fancy French name, but it's just fucking decants.
Well, if you go to the osmotique, they're not in the bottles that you buy your perfume in. They're in little decants. So yeah, I can call it that. But yes, it is still Goutal.
Okay, behind Goutal, what would be the next? Because your love of Goutal is well documented.
It is
so.
MDCI, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I've got Sheep Propalatan.
They don't have that many perfumes, do they?
Well, I've got 3 full bottles of them. I've got which I know sounds nothing, but when you've curated down to 75, 3 is still quite a lot.
3 out of 75 is still.
Yeah, I've got Sheep Propalatan. I've got
1/4.
It's not.
No, it's not 1/4, is it?
No,
it's 4%.
Yeah, it's not huge. I've got Sheep Propalatan. I've got Nuit Andalouse, and I've got Vepres Sicilienne. All of which I think are phenomenal, beautiful perfumes. I absolutely love them. But yeah, I wish I could say Guerlain, but I guess if you count Shalimar and all the flankers, then probably Guerlain as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I do have quite a lot of different Shalimars.
I think it will probably not surprise anyone particularly, but I think the most populous, if that's the right word, but the house that I've got the most bottles of is
Roger.
Yes.
Yeah.
Knew it.
Yeah, straight away. Not through any sort of particular design or sort of deliberate choice, but yeah, that's sort of where I ended up. I've also got quite a few Kana now. I think I've got like at least 3 or 4 Kana ones. I got rid of quite a lot of the Exajoff because most of them pissed me off. But I have kept hold of a few of them, so I've got maybe like 5 or 6 of them. Yeah, interesting. I don't think there's any sort of there's no particular overriding theme with mine. I mean, so brands notwithstanding, is there a particular note style or style of perfume that is dominant in your collection? Because James, I keep coming back to yours because obviously I've never actually seen your collection in its entirety, but my guess is that it's a bit all over the place. There isn't
eclectic.
Sort of,
we call it eclectic.
Yeah. Well, yeah, exactly. But I mean,
it is.
Yeah, not all of the perfumes you've got are perfumes you bought because you tried them and fell in love with them. A lot of them are things that you've bought on a whim, and it feels like quite a sort of personal history sort of collection.
Somewhat, yeah. I think you're right there. But there are things that I've really sort of agonised over, or just there's certain like staples that are just like great, like Chanel, Hermes. There's things that give satisfaction on a level of it's going to be great perfume, and this is kind of the mode that I've been in for the last few years, let's say, where I don't want those kind of disappointments. Yes, you get the excitement of the blind buy or the excitement of a new brand or a new concept, or thinking, oh, I'm covering this new base in my collection or whatever. I kind of stopped thinking about it like that, and I stopped with the FOMO, you know, the fear of missing out on things, and it's really liberating, to be honest. I feel so much better about it feels more curated and more that I'm buying things that are meaningful. And even if that's a safe pair of hands job where I'm like, I didn't mean it like that.
You can't say hand job on a family podcast.
No.
Family?
Oh, yeah, sorry. No, it's not a family podcast. You're right.
Well, it's like I see those kind of things of there's so much perfume out there that is kind of, it's not blowing my socks off, and it's not really like something that won't. But I know that if I have it in my collection, I'm not going to regret it. And it's going to satisfy me on several different levels. So I get the kind of satisfaction of a great sort of retail experience, packaging, whatever you want to call it, of having something nice. And I also get that I know that the perfume stands up and that it'll be good and that I'll enjoy it down the line. But I still have those like moments of like eccentric shit that I just really like. And I don't think I'll ever stop doing that. So it is a bit of a scattergun sort of approach, but there's some refinement sometimes. It depends what mood I'm in. It's the same. I look at my collection in the way that many people do. Have I got stuff, again, whether you think that seasonal shit matters or whatever, you're already thinking about fig for the summer. You're thinking about, you know, different fresh perfumes that you can wear, or scenarios or like situations, even if like it's more like subconscious, even if like on a level where if we were having a discussion about it, I'd say, look, I wear whatever I feel on that day and whatever. But you do have your sort of fresher perfumes or whatever, and your heavier stuff, and you know, I cover all the bases that I figure most people do. I don't think anybody who's into the level of perfume that we are, where you've got hundreds of bottles in your collection, I think they're all gonna be running the gamut of quite a range of perfumes, because I don't understand somebody who would be that heavily into perfume who's just got like a shitload of ambers or a shitload of things that are all in the same style, because where's the fun in that? I don't know. Well, like, that might be your thing, but you know, my thing is like, anyway.
I have like, I think I'm very tuberose and white flower heavy. I'm also very, very incense heavy, church incense heavy. But that said, when I cut everything down, it was like, okay, which are the best 2 or 3 figs that I know? What are the best 2 or 3 straight soliflor roses? Which are the best rosewood I would have in my collection? Which is the best? Taking that whole gamut across, you know, where are my freshies? Where's the one thing that I'm always going to be able to reach for and wear in an office? Where's the one thing that just makes me roll my head back and just, I couldn't possibly be without it because it's so damn sexy? That kind of thing. Making sure that it was... there's something for every day of my life in there. I could wear my collection. Even if I never bought another perfume, there'd be something for every mood and every season and every day and every feeling, I think.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, for that.
I also did.
Once you've got more than about 5 perfumes,
yeah,
you've probably got most shit covered, to be honest.
But I also did a calculation of not counting samples. This is just bottles and decants. That if I wore 1 ml a day, I still have enough perfume to last me over 21 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I think I've probably got enough perfume for about 5 lifetimes.
Exactly.
At least. I mean, 5 good lifetimes. Yeah.
So talking about my collection is actually much more eclectic than you probably might imagine. Again, it's like everyone else. It covers like so many bases. I've got like but I have had to stop myself.
I still can't get over you having 14 Zergoffs. That blows my mind.
There's some nice ones in there, I'll tell you. But
I'm sure.
But the stuff like, a good example would be like that Hora de la Verdad Sombra that I got. It's fucking magnificent, but I can't bring myself to buy that now because I know that it's another bottle that will go on my shelf with all because I have a kind of like artistic corner. And I love it, but I know I'm also aware that I wear it so rarely. But I do love it. I couldn't like that Hora de la Sombra, Verdad Sombra, whatever. I really loved that, but I knew like, what's the point? Because it's just another one that I'll wear like maybe once a year, and I might really enjoy that once. But I've already got like a 20 bottle collection of stuff that stinks that badly that I don't even want to wear it once a year. So.
But that's where I find the decants are handy.
Yeah. I mean,
totally. And there are some of my decants I've got like 30ml decant of in a really nice bottle, because when I was selling maybe I was selling a bottle that was 100ml or 150ml or whatever, and I was thinking, a 10ml's not going to be enough for me, but I don't need this massive fuck off jar of this juice.
Yeah, to go back to my vinyl analogy now, like bottles are a little bit like my vinyls. Like I'm quite happy with a sample even, or like 5ml or 10ml like decants. Whereas before, in the old days when I first started collecting, it was like, I want the bottle and I want the biggest bottle I could buy.
Yeah.
But now it's like, actually the bottles are just like a waste most of the time. And the only ones I buy bottles of are the things that I really fucking like. Like so retail as well. Like a retail bottle that I bought was Oud Infinite. When I found out it was being discontinued, I instantly was like, fuck that, life's over, I'm going on the internet now to buy a bottle of it. And I'm chuffed to have that in my collection, but I bought that, like that's a rarity nowadays, like because I'm never going to wear 100 or 50 mils of Oud Infinite in my entire life, but having the bottles
is essential.
Absolutely. All right. And
sorry. What do you think about? I'm kind of moving on from the subject here a little bit, but we can come back. What do you think about collections as a kind of in a sort of destructive kind of like force, or like a negative thing? You know how like it can become like sort of out of control, or like people. I've heard other people talking about this. I think mine's, perfectly reasonable or whatever. But some people might think, like certainly if, I don't know, like let's say you do have the, let me give an example. Like there's a guy on YouTube who I think Ben will know. And again, I don't really want to mention him because he's a bit of a cunt, so... that fucking that Miami Cuddles guy.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
We can cut his name out. That fucking twat. He's always going on like, oh well, do you own your house? And to like people, he's going like, do you own your house or whatever? But you've got like a wall of perfumes behind you, and he's like, get your fucking priorities sorted. Why are you spending all your money on this shit? And yet you're not like on the fucking housing, which is kind of a point. It's a bit of a twatty fucking none of your business, mate kind of point. But like. There's certain people who like maybe are, or like they're jeopardizing like relationship. I might be getting too fucking deep with this shit.
I think it's interesting. I mean, for me, when I cut down, it was because one of the reasons was I got the level of anxiety I got from looking at my collection versus the amount of money I knew I could release by selling it. I had to. It was a no-brainer. It was like, don't be stupid, Fliss. Why are you, and yeah, if money was no object, I'd have loads of thousands and thousands of beautiful bottles. But there was just a point where I had to just take myself in hand and go, Fliss, you can solve this situation just by selling 2/3 of your collection. Get on the case, bitch. And I did.
So I think there is an interesting question about when things become destructive, and I think that's a very personal sort of formula that people have to kind of weigh up. I mean, yes, I have spent a lot of money on perfume over the years, and arguably, yes, there would have been much smarter ways to invest that money. However, I'm not on the breadline. I'm not destitute, and sure, I spend less money than I might otherwise do on, food and no, on clothes. I don't know.
Nobody's going hungry in your house, are they?
No, exactly.
It's disposable income for a reason, because you've used the gambler's analogy, and a sensible fucking gambler, if there is such a thing, only spends what they can afford, or only invests what they can afford to lose. That's how you've got to. That's the mindset, isn't it?
Totally. I've got friends who spend equal amounts of money on shoes or handbags or fast fashion. You know, they're changing. You know, they always look beautifully dressed. I look like a fucking farmer's wife half the time, but I smell amazing, and that's my choice. You know, I don't. That money that I could easily spend that money on clothes or shoes instead, and I don't. I spend it on things to make me smell nice.
I could spend all this money on like crack or heroin or whatever, you know, and kind of those would be very destructive ways of getting rid of my disposable income. Actually sort of maintaining a, you know, okay, it's a big but rather, you know, in the scheme of things, reasonably modest collection of perfumes. I don't worry too much about. But I did see something, I think it was actually Brooke who wrote this the other day on Instagram, and it was along the lines of, I see you people doing your video reviews, standing in front of walls and walls of perfumes, you know, unused perfumes, but all sort of neatly arranged by house, you know. And it's like, your priorities are wrong, right? Just having it for the sake of fucking putting it in a nice order and going, ooh, I own all of this. I think there is a point that is sort of slightly wrong. I for all the photographs I take of the perfumes, I sell loads of them back on quickly, and I keep the churn up, because actually I've just got a cupboard. You know, I don't have some like fucking
room.
I don't have a perfume room. No, exactly. It's just a cupboard in my office, and actually 200 bottles of perfume doesn't take up all that much space. But I do see these people who sort of show it off, you know, their collection as like a status symbol, and for me it's never been that, because if it were I don't think I would ever sell anything, because I just want it to be, you know, the bigger the better, the more status I've got, kind of thing. I'm constantly selling and churning it and keeping it at a reasonably manageable level, and I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this point, but I feel like there is a negative ownership aspect where people are sort of owning for the sake of showing off what a big fucking cheese they are.
For me, it's the opposite of that. I don't tell anybody outside the fragrance community that I'm into perfume, or let them see the drawers or the extent of it. And when they do
show them the madness.
No, and when they do see it, they're like, fuck me. In fact, there's one person who's just started following me on Instagram who's a friend from like my other life, and
your real life,
and she was just like, fuck me, Fliss, this is a world, isn't it? You know, it's like, wow, yeah it is. Hi, Sophie.
I'm definitely like a bit of both of that, and I'm acutely aware that I buy a lot of things and collect a lot of things to have the collection and have the ownership. Because I have those 3 guitars because I bought a Jaguar, a Mustang, and a Jazzmaster, because I liked offset guitars, and I had to have the collection. I had to have like the trifecta, right? And like, you know, when I buy the Zerdroff collection, I had to have the collection. When I buy the vinyl, it's like sometimes I'll buy a band's discography and things like that. And when I bought my stereo,
that's not because you need to show it.
It's
off
not
to
at all. It's
people,
never been about status. I don't care if anyone never sees it ever. I like to see it, and it makes me feel good, but it's not about anything else. And again, like with the perfume, I feel a little bit uncomfortable when people see it, because I'm like, it's a fucking, that's a weird thing I do, isn't it? Like,
but by the same rule, Ben, you are somebody who likes to talk about things. Like you're a reviewer, aren't you, on like Amazon and stuff like that. Yeah. And you're a reviewer of things like and like very You'll have to cut this out, but your like Grow Diaries thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
very thorough. Do you know what I mean?
Fixate.
Like you strike me as everything you do, you have to get like right into and do a full diary, and it's very concise and like everything. That is like that's obviously part of your like personality, and regardless of how much you don't want to be like showing off your bottles in the background and stuff, you felt a compulsion to like, I want to talk about this. I want to put my my opinions on something that I'm clearly passionate about across to people. And it's not in the same way. It's not the same motivation that other people have to do it. It's coming from like a good place of like, I want the collection first, and then this other thing as an outlet to be able to share it with people who, because I don't know if you've got any like real life friends who were your friends before you got into Perfume, who were also into Perfume as well.
None
I can't think of a one. No. Exactly. So you needed somebody to speak to, didn't you? Right.
So I do have one friend that that I've known since childhood that actually has got into Perfume recently and is now actively sort of part of the
Was that your fault?
Fragrance.
Would you say?
Yeah, that's a little bit different though, because they've probably been introduced to the community by you. I mean, independently of you. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. Yeah, no.
And Fliss is probably the same, because you're saying, you have this like other life of people. Have you got any somebody that you could just get around and go, let's sniff some perfumes?
Yeah, I had one, and he, I think I've mentioned him several times on my Insta. He died last year, but he was my friend for 25 years, and we just collected together. And before Facebook, before all of the groups, it was just us, and it wasn't a guilty secret, but like going to his house would be, I would go with any samples or any new bottles that I had, and he would get all of his stuff out, and we would just sit round the dinner table or sit round after dinner just sniffing everything we could get our hands on. And his poor boyfriend worked in perfume retail and by Terry, and so whatever he was doing, he was a makeup artist, so he would be picking up so many samples that we would never normally be able to get our hands on. And so he would come home from work with all these samples. Andrew would ring me and go, Darren's got a load of samples, come round. It was wonderful.
Well, that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, and that's great, but like say, and that's incredible that you had that, but like say, most people don't, do they? Do you know what I mean? And
no,
it's
absolutely.
It's kind of unusual, isn't it? Like that's the case, You'd think
it is, and that I think is the power of the internet. Really, is bringing together people's kind of weird little fucking enthusiasms and vices, and turning them into an actual community. I can't really imagine that the concept of fragrance communities really existed much before the internet, because it's such a sort of niche, idiosyncratic sort of pursuit. It's something you kind of come to almost on your own, maybe shaped by your environment in some way. But I didn't have a person that told me how to get into perfumes or that talked to me about perfumes. I just found myself more and more interested in them, and I found myself spending more and more time going into Boots and other associated high street shops wanting to try them. It sort of happened slowly to me, not as part of any community. I wasn't radicalized by some perfume community. I was self-turned. Anyway, look, I'm sort of loath to bring us to a close, but I feel I must, because we've been at it forever. I think there's definitely a second episode in this conversation.
We haven't done backup bottles.
Oh, there's dozens. Yeah, so we're going to come back at this. We're going to do a second part. Maybe not next episode, but I feel confident we should do a second episode, because I've absolutely loved this. It's been a really nice conversation. I don't feel like I've sort of had any grand revelation, but I do feel I've learnt a lot more about each of you and your sort of collections and your personal sort of styles, and I love the sort of the psychotic, merciless kind of organisation that Fliss brings to it.
Psychotic and merciless.
The sort of eclectic, chaos of James and the weirdly complete, calculated collectionising of Ben. I'm loving all of it. So.
All I know is that next time someone frowns at my bags of samples, I'm going to say, it's an Osmantique, darling.
Yeah. What's that carrier bag of fucking glass vials? Osmantique, dickhead. Right. Any final thoughts, James?
No, not really.
No. Okay.
Sorry. I mean, do you want me to? I could fucking go on.
Well, we all can.
I think there definitely is more mileage in it, and it was funny because it's kind of free form. Like, let's just come up with an idea, and it's actually one of the most important because it's got the personal aspects. It's got all the there's loads to it. It's basically. The whole all-encompassing kind of conversation about perfume. It's like, it's a really broad subject. So, we can come back to it and have plenty more discussion. So, I'm excited for it.
Cool. Ben, any final thoughts from you, sir?
No, I think that's about it, really. I think I've embarrassed myself enough. I think we can move on.
go get your bag of Osmantique and what is it? Osmantique? I don't know.
Osmantique.
What's the word?
Osmantique. It's a place in it's in Versailles, isn't it?
Yeah, it's basically a library of every fragrance ever made, ever.
Well, they recreate them as well, which is interesting because they
clone them.
I don't think they'd like it if you said that.
No, I mean they do it like as a kind of like an exercise for people to smell things. I think as they were sort of intended, or which is interesting because they're not like
You can go and smell Iris Gris by Jacques Fath, which is just like
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
which I think is worth the entrance price alone, I think I would.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good. All right. Fliss, any final thoughts from yourself?
No, I've loved it. I've really enjoyed the differences that we have, but then also some of the similarities. And my big light bulb was Ben with his Zexoff. With his little Zexoff. Whatever you want to say. I was just like, wow, that's surprised the hell out of me.
See, sometimes I actually smell nice, not like roadkill.
Yeah. That Scottish guy. Yeah, today I'm reviewing Jerk Off. This one. No, you're not. No, you're not. Right, it's
a different channel.
Yeah, it's a very different channel. Yeah, it's been unusually ridiculous, even for you lot. So thank you. I've loved it. As always, dear listener, all of our gubbins is in the show notes. Do get in touch. You don't only have to write to Fliss. You can write to any of us. We'd all love to hear your little voices. Until next time, we'll be back with you in 2 weeks on Les Oderants. Bye.
Bye.